It's a Belvedere at the top, and back in the day, the jewelers actually drove their cars right into an elevator, went right up to the offices. Now that Belvedere, back in the day, was home to a speakeasy lounge called the Stratosphere Lounge. A lot of tour guides like to make up a story that Al Capone used to hang out there. The dates don't line up. Al Capone was in prison. And the only thing I'll say about Al Capone, he's from Brooklyn, New York building. They beautifully restored the cupola at the top. And coming up is one of our newer buildings, the Bank of America Tower. They use 5-foot setbacks to give the building more of a vertical view that I talked about here on the left. A lot of similar use in the way they use glass on these buildings. So fourth tallest in Chicago. It's the Aon Center. It was done at 9 o'clock. Runs for about a half an hour. It's very cool. Disaster in maritime history actually happened right on this river in 1915. A passenger vessel, the Eastland, was hired by a local company to take its employees from here to Michigan City, Indiana, for a company picnic. 3 years before is the Titanic sunk. Federal government required then more lifeboats on all these passenger vessels. The Eastland, they didn't take account to the extra added weight of these lifeboats at the top of the vessel. 1915, people were excited. They were probably going on their first boat ride. They rushed aboard. Due to the top heaviness of the boat, Alright folks, I talked about our incredible lakefront buildings built on the shoreline. We have an ordinance here in Chicago. Those buildings to be built east of the street in front of us, Busados Lakeshore. East is this direction. So coming up on the right-hand side, there's a beautiful 3-row glass undulating curtain wall building called Lake Point Tower. This building was done in 1968 by students of East Manual. And this in 1968 at 70 stories was the tallest apartment building in the world. So why is this one the only one? Well, the land over there was owned by a company called Chicago Dock and Canal. They were granted the rights to build harbor terminal facilities at the mouth of the Chicago River. That ain't a harbor terminal facility. They got away with it. They got this beautiful building built, after which the city said, that's it, that's the only one. Now, all the way up at the top is a French restaurant called Cité. It doesn't revolve or spin. Drink enough French wine, you'll get it. Coming up on the right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, the city has been working on this area. It's going to be a brand new park over here, Millennium Park. They're going to extend some river walk. They just extended the bike path as well. But not much else has been going on over here. Anglicized name is Chautauqua. We are named for smelly onions. Brilliant. So we're right at the point of the main north-south branches of this river. I think we're going to turn pretty soon. You get a nice sideways view of it.
Oh, you only see the water part. You can't see the fountain. Stand up.
It's called Buckingham Fountain. There was a wealthy benefactor named Kate Buckingham. She donated the money for this incredible fountain. People think it came from England. It doesn't. And this incredible fountain is one of the largest decorative fountains in the world. And folks, if you ever get a chance at nighttime, yourself in case we get an unexpected chop. Yes, this is great. Come with me on all my tours. She's feeding me stuff that I can talk about. She said we get a lot of fish here. Yes, this is a great fishing lake, but they don't allow commercial fishing, which is a good thing. And I'll talk more about it and keep feeding me info. All right, we're heading north a little bit now. We're going to head north. We're going to go down to Oak Street Beach. We're going to turn around. We'll head south to its museum campus, and then we'll head back to where we started. All right, folks, kindly draw your attention at the far end of Navy Pier. You see all these American flags. I want to point out the City of Chicago flag. It's right in the middle. It's got 2 blue stripes, 3 white stripes, and 4 red stars. The 2 blue stripes, Lake Michigan, the Chicago River. The 3 white stripes, the land to the south, north, and west. We don't have land east. It's all Lake Michigan. 4 red stars. I talked about Fort Dearborn. I talked about the Great Chicago Fire. I talked about the World's Fair of 1893. We had another World's Fair of 1933, City of Chicago. All right, real quickly, draw your attention on the right-hand side. So, way out there on the right-hand side, kind of in line with my hand right now, pointing in that direction. Sort of in front of us, out there on the right-hand side, you'll see a red and white building, red and white walls. That is one of our Chicago water grids. What that building is are protective walls for water intake pipes. The pipes go down 200 feet. The water is transported over here on the left-hand side. That's our filtration plant. Chicago has some of the best drinking water. It's 99% pure. I don't know what the 1% is. I think it's good for you. It could be vodka. I have no idea. Now that park in front of the filtration plant is called Olive Park. It's named for Private First Class Milton Leal. Milton Leal jumped in front of an exploding grenade in the Vietnam War, gave up his life to save his entire platoon. He's the first African American from the city of Chicago to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery. We owe him a debt of gratitude, as well as every single man and woman that serves our country. We got any actives or vets on board? Any actives or vets? Right back there. We appreciate you. Thank you. All right. We're coming up to an area where we affectionately call the playpen here in Chicago. I want you to look out on the left-hand side of the boat. Isn't this day spectacular out here? This is 98 for 575 million. It's still the world's largest commercial building.
Mercy, mercy.
Don't forget about the
Wonderful buildings, two of which are residential. This area, Wolf Point, is an historic part of Chicago. It's where we got our roots, our first hotel, tavern, and so forth. Now, how do we get our name? When the Native Americans came traveling through here, this was all marshland filled with onion plants. And in their native language, they said it smelled like Chicago or smelly onions. Well, our brilliant leaders at the tavern and
It helps the speaker lead his audience into the scene he described by creating an imaginary picture. Usually it's something that moves.
Character.
So then, why?
That's cool. That's wollte ich halt einfach.
why.
Ja, lustig. It's crazy wie classic. Where's the Trump house? Trump building. Yeah, it has a big building on it. I try to like look everywhere to get everywhere. Over here it's kind of crowded though. It's a nice aesthetic, man. They didn't know I'm recording. quality of recording is good as well. That's a good point. They didn't mess up the quality. Oh, is it Ross next to the Trump Hotel? Near, so near. That's interesting because Macy's is always close to Ross. That's the river.